Hello and welcome to the show. It is Sunday, the 25th of August 2024, and it is good to see you all. Okay, so it has been, I think, 6 weeks since I last did one of these podcasts, and in that time, I've taken a bit of rest, to be quite honest, because studying and training and working was catching up with me a bit. So, figured out a way to have a bit more mental rest, a bit more physical rest, and yeah, to be quite honest, I've been enjoying relaxing and making life a bit simpler for myself. Pardon me. There we go. Okay. So, as usual, I don't often come into these with a specific plan because I like the free form idea. But something I've been doing. Okay, well, there you go. Something I've been doing recently is chatting more with ChatGPT, as I found it to be quite a helpful tool in my studies. So I thought between that and part of me doesn't want to say this out loud because this is public, but it's fine. Basically, ChatGPT is really, really helpful, and because ChatGPT is basically on call 24/7, it's like having a personal assistant. So because I've got a personal assistant now, a robotic personal assistant, my study planning has become that much more effective. And when I say that much more effective, I mean there's an actual plan going on. So my logic was, due to my experience with periodized training from weightlifting programs, carry that same logic over because it'd be fairly straightforward to understand. There it is. The training cycles as it were. So you've got macrocycles, mesocycles, microcycles. So by understanding the cycles within the cycles, it makes it progressively simpler to understand my behavioural patterns. So for instance, beyond just understanding my own personal behavioural patterns, I can then extrapolate that heuristic of information to other forms of behaviour in my life, whether that be studying, training, working, socialising, pick a metric. The point is, by understanding a bit better how it all links together, I'm able to produce a more cohesive argument in favour of myself and my case. Okay, so one of the things that I've been doing a lot with this is exploring motifs. I agree. I do not know I'm this twice. I don't usually yawn much at all, so there it was. To be fair, I did train jiu-jitsu and weightlifting at today, so I need to get back into Thai boxing. Even if it's just a little bit. This might. Okay, so this is part of something I've been thinking about recently. Is I've been pushing myself so far for so long, which is why I ended up taking like a month off and then go. And with that month off, I ended up relaxing a little bit, thinking, this whole cannabis mark is kind of helpful. And I don't like saying that out loud, but I feel it's disingenuous not to mention that as part of what's helped me. So back in the day, I smoked probably. Thing is, not even that much when you think about how much other people smoke. But then I've since learned that what I felt wasn't that much, and I was basically comparing myself to like heavy smokers, thinking, "Oh, it's not that much." But then, after conversations with some acquaintances becoming friends, people I met at the gym, I learned that my cannabis consumption was actually considerably higher than average, or at least my tolerance to weed was higher than average. So I was a little bit, not flummoxed, just my head's not here today. But it is, but it's, I'm sorry viewers, I really am. There's something about my style of thinking is different. Part of my mind wanted to focus on the chest because I've been doing a lot of behavioural conditioning focusing on just doing the thing. And part of me feels a little physically tired, which apparently is more significant a tiredness than I thought it was. But it shouldn't be that tired, is it? This is, you know what it is? It's probably a combination of smoke and time away fitness. I'm a little disappointed in myself, my fitness not being quite as stellar as I know it has been, so I think that's just, you know, something to accept and improve as we get forward. I think what it is because I haven't opened this podcast with any sort of purpose. And usually that's okay because I just speak my mind and I find stuff. And sometimes it's like the whole idea of solutions versus sympathy, because sometimes sympathy is what that person needs, and sometimes solution is right there in front of you. So when the solution's right there in front of you, I tend to just do the thing, because just doing the thing is usually all it takes to actually make the thing happen. So I think what my mind wants to do in this scenario is find some sort of plan. Okay, so, well, actually, maybe that's what it is internal locus and hierarchy of prioritization. So I tend to structure my life in a way that whenever I find something that's higher value, I should have reviewed that game. I can't go back to it. Whenever I find something of higher value, I tend to impose upon myself a restriction of, if that higher value thing is conducive to my goals, then do the higher value thing. So for instance, with jiu-jitsu, it might simply be improving your positional dominance. It might be improving the efficacy of an attack. There's lots of different things in jiu-jitsu which can be improved upon. It's the same idea with chess. It's finding that higher form of progression. So regardless of whether it's a martial art or combat sport, or you're just studying or training for something else, or you're just working away in your own time, the idea is finding the highest form of whatever you're doing and mastering that. So, pardon me, I really don't know what's going on with this bodily function stuff. I think it's partially because I'm hungry, and there's a lot of oxygen coming in and out of me right now at a rapid pace, and that tends to be a thing with other patients. Okay. So, for instance, I got myself into reading during the 2020 lockdown. I'd read bits when I was a kid and just hadn't kept up with it. So I thought, alright, I want to do some more reading. That's a good productive thing. You know, smart people read. And that very simple initial logic of, okay, smart people read, I want to be smarter, I will read. Eventually goes, okay, well, smart people read more complicated stuff than what I'm reading. So at the time, I wasn't reading fiction, although I do remember reading The Alchemist after Jen lent it to me. And that's the last fiction thing I've read for years. For instance, before that, I was reading bits and bobs and watching channels, so, you know, let's read some scientific things. Let's actually, you know, give it a go. So I did, and got a little bit smarter and a little bit better at this and a little bit better at that. Until eventually, pardon me, I found my level of academic aptitude. I was like, okay, so this is literature that's my level. Like, none of this is challenging, but it's new. It's information. For example, it doesn't matter if it's biology, psychology, sociology, comp sci, marketing, any of this stuff, right? By understanding all that stuff, it's like, okay, well, now I know where I am. Now I've set expectations. I've established base levels. Whichever phrasing you find most relatable here is what I'm aiming for. Because how are you doing that? Okay, because once you understand there's the hierarchy, the direction of hierarchy of what you're doing, you find the highest form of what you're doing. So with chess, the highest form is winning the games as effectively and efficiently as possible. So for example, If you can scholars mate them, go for your scholars mate. If you, whichever combination of attacks works best for you. It's the same in Jitsu. Highest form isn't. Well, okay, so an example with Jitsu is the highest form of. Take an armbar, for example. An armbar is a very classic attack. It's used all the way through from day one beginners up to world championship level fighters in MMA and Jiu-Jitsu. You'll see them in the UFC, you'll see it in ADCC, you'll see it at CJI, you'll see it at all sorts of combat competitions. There are various forms of armbar, for example, there's Choi bars, there's dog bars, there's shotgun arm bars, and all these various arm bars are effectively the same pressure application in a different form. So a classic armbar would have the arm between the legs, gripped with the hands so that the elbows fulcrum is past the hip, so that when the legs are over the torso of the body in front of you, you push it forward, creates pressure, would break arm if the opponent doesn't tap or ring partner. So the simple armbar is a simple armbar. However, there are variations to it. So for example, there's ways you can adjust your legs to be more appropriate to the target's bodily position, in the same way that if they try to escape, there's adaptation. Those positions can prevent those escapes as well as provide easier adaptation to the increased difficulty of the stimuli. And as you get through all these things, you figure, oh, that's the best one, this is the best one, and eventually, okay, if they do these, A, B, and C, then I will retaliate with D, E, F, and then, okay, now it's moving, I'll either get the armbar, or I've applied so much pressure on them that they're going to move. I'm still going to be leading the tempo. I still gain the initiative, and that's the important aspect of. That's the higher form within that higher form. So when I'm looking at higher forms, it's genuinely about self-improvement, but I don't like looking at the self-improvement thing because the self-improvement is basing on myself, it's internal. If I look at highest forms, I'm looking at the established metrics already given to us. So if those established metrics, let's say for example, are from the world of business, then the highest form would be to do some sort of charitable business there. It's incredibly philanthropic, and yet at the same time reaps in trillions of pounds sterling in profit every year without fail. Easy peasy. That would be one of the highest forms of business. As an alternative idea, one of the highest forms of sport, in my opinion, would be combat sports, simply because it's one of the most challenging things people can do with the human body against somebody else who is also willing to put themselves through that rigor, as it were. It's not simple training. It's not I've never met a half-assed combat athlete or martial art. There's plenty that are kind of lazy, and there's plenty that you can tell are probably going to quit soon. But as far as people that have actually stayed in the game, there aren't any lazy ones. You just simply can't be in that sport. In climbing, you can be kind of lazy with your training and stuff because you're going up against a passive opponent, the simplest way to say that. Meanwhile, in martial arts, combat sports, it's an active opponent. You can't deny that the person you're training with, fighting, whoever, is, pardon me, is actively attempting to solve the puzzle you're trying to solve. It's back and forth. Pardon me. Which is why I would deem it as the highest form. You could argue that team sports achieve the same objective, but I think with team sports, I mean, I would say the team combat sports. That would be brutal. I know American football and rugby do not count as combat sports. Contact sports, I'll give you. I know it's your super, and I like rugby. They're not combat sports. You don't. Don't get me wrong. I've seen football injuries. I've had rugby injuries. I know that it'll hurt. At the same time, it's not comparable to what can happen in boxing or kickboxing or MMA, or even in combat jiu-jitsu. Like in jiu-jitsu, if it goes wrong, like the person is actively attempting to break your arm, your leg, choke you unconscious. Like if you're not paying attention to yourself, they might go too far because they're going off their basis to understand. They're going off the perception of your response to help them understand what to do. In a competition scenario, many athletes are and will break your arms, break your legs, choke you unconscious, without a second thought about it because they want to win, especially when there's money on the line. So, with all of that in mind, it's worth considering there aren't many sports that are above combat sports. They just aren't. It's such a visceral part of human nature. It's you want to know what it is. It's because it's a natural thing that we've assigned rules to. So, for instance, if we took football or rugby, whether that's American or classic football, real football, come on, American football, you're throwing something around with your hands. At best, it's handball. With all that in mind, the sports available to us are the sports available to us. However, the concept of fighting has existed long before organised sport. It was here before organised tribalism. The idea of combat is a survival metric that humans simply cannot avoid. It's a survival metric that's just part of being human. There's the old adage of two men need to know two things, and men need to know how to fight and they need to know how to fight. And to some extent, to some degree, that is kind of true. You need to know how to look after yourself and you need to know how to raise a family. Would be the way I would phrase that and say it's protection and provision. There's evolution of it. It's cultural evolution alongside biological evolution. Okay, and game review. So this whole idea of finding the highest forms of things is whether it's in academics or athletics, your personal life, your professional life, or something else entirely. The point stands is what you're trying to accomplish is finding it's the heaviest weight you can carry, the longest distance you can run, or whichever literary device helps you understand this better. It's the point of finding the hardest thing you can do and doing that, because that's part of what gives life meaning. It really is. I've lived life aimlessly for a long time, and the more I improve my aim and understand the scope of what I'm capable of doing, the easier it is to understand what life is about. And a huge amount of it is just taking on responsibility and actually doing stuff that you feel is difficult. Accepting responsibility will give your life purpose and meaning. It simply will, because if you're the one responsible, the buck stops at you. You are the last call. It's like when a boy becomes a man because he realizes nobody's going to come save him. That's when a child becomes an adult, when he realizes nobody else will come save him. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. It matters that you understand that you can only save yourself. You can't save anybody else, but you can save you, and nobody's going to come save you. There isn't somebody coming to save you. And I'm going to go on a slight tangent here, which is making sense in my head, and I don't know if I'm not entirely sure which direction it's going to go, so bear with us. I think that it was going to be something to do with organised religion and how it tells people what they're allowed to know and what they're supposed to do and things like that. That'd be great if organised religion actually followed the tenets of optimising society instead of basically rechanneling wealth towards the top, as is the nature of capitalistic agency. Look at the trappings of the Vatican, if you want any further example of that. How you collect wealth for your organisation is the business of your organisation. The expression of that wealth, I mean, frankly, it's tawdry. It's not the point. It's just their money; they can do what they want. But the point stands the collection of the wealth that's contributed towards the Vatican, as well as other organised religions, I think is a displacement of. It's a displacement of wealth that capitalises on the exploitation of ignorance. Basically, if you're dumb, they can make money off you, which is a huge part of how capitalism works generally. It's a huge part of how evolution works. So if you are dumb, you will get taken advantage of. If you are too dumb, you will probably be, killed, raped, tortured, all those kinds of things. Because the survival of the fittest, it's called survival of the fittest for a reason. Darwinism exists because it's the direct observation of nature as we know it. There isn't anything beyond that. And I'm really hoping I can circle back to my idea before I think of the whole organized religion thing about thinking in highest forms of thought and combat sports, and I'm trying to piece it together in my head. So, whilst that's going on, let's make sure we correct all of our mistakes. Let's find the best moves everywhere, because that is good for them. slightly bit off that, is it? Okay. Sorry, there's a flyer talking me, so don't need to give that any more attention than it deserves. There's somebody in my chat. Hello, viewer. It's nice to see you. Keep a separate screen overlaying the stream chat. So if you're typing anything in, give me a minute and I'll see it. I don't know if I give a notification. If there's a way to have a notification sound, please tell me. Thank you. Yeah, the whole idea of the organised religion thing, it's been in my head recently because I've noticed most of the time it's just a proxy for perversion. A lot of the time, any of this holy stuff comes up, it's an idea of you must put your faith in me and trust me and all this sort of thing. It just seems a way to manipulate people into letting the guard down so as to facilitate the exchange of resources, whether that be capital in the financial sense, capital in an intellectual sense, or capital in a physicality sense. I mean, world of profession, right? So, given all the accurate allegations against the Catholic Church, I think it's fair to say that there's a significant degree of sexuality involved in, I was going to say religious teachings. That seems very broad for what I'm trying to say. Religious teachings. I don't want to unintentionally create allegations against other religions, such as hear the other in my voice. It's so aggressive. With the other religions apart from Catholicism. Apparently, it's very dominant on that. It's been something I've been thinking about recently. Not, it's like the whole Nietzsche thing with how Christianity is influenced Europe, and then I was thinking, well, hang on, it's also influences how people think today, because many people refer to God in a contextual sense without realizing that their body language indicates that there's somebody in the vicinity they perceive to be representative of what they idolize. So, for instance, in a combat sports setting, it might be the highest ranked athlete in the gym. In a library, it might be the most, not qualified, the most academically gifted person. Qualifications matter, but it's experience versus, you know. So, it's that same idea. It doesn't matter whether you prefer being a student, you prefer being an athlete. The idea of a student athlete, they combine together, right? So, with that stuff in mind, and I'm just checking the shit again. I haven't said anything, but it's okay, we'll keep going. With that in mind, you start seeing, how do I put it? I called it the observable phenomenon for so long. It's just body language, and most people are unintentionally ignorant, I think, because they don't realize how significant an impact their body language can have on their surroundings. So, environmentally, your body language is going to affect not just you, it's going to affect everybody around you. So, let's continue the gyms and libraries, okay? Let's say we're at the gym and we decide to do an exercise, we do it very, very well. On the last set, we're going to maximize our reps. Brilliant. Okay, we put a lot of hard work, creative effort. We're affecting our environment because we've set a standard of, in this place, this is the level of strength we expect to be considered, for you to be considered strong contextually, right? In the same way that if you're doing an undergraduate course, many people seem to think that 2-1 is an acceptable means of graduating from university. I disagree. I think a first is the only acceptable means of graduating from an undergraduate course. Anything less than that is somebody slacking. There are plenty of people who are, shall we say, less cerebrally gifted, lower IQ, that, you know, maybe the 2-1 or the second or like the third is the best they can achieve. And I'm sure that is the case in some cases. However, most people have a triple digit IQ in the university sphere, and to be fair, most of the time a university course is not that complicated at the undergraduate level. And I don't think it is at the postgraduate level either if you're willing to put in the work. Between the resources of, I mean, even Reddit, Wikipedia, YouTube, ChatGPT, those 4 things right there will give you a huge amount of information to study and learn anything you want. And learn pretty much everything you can learn about it. It's incredible. And that's before you start getting your own personal library of books and writings and everything. Like, there's just so many people that allow the world to overpower their sense of ambition. They get an aspiration one day and they think, oh, I'm breathing, that means the aspiration's, still alive. Okay, so you're great, you're breathing. So what? It doesn't mean anything's going to happen of it. If you have an aspiration, you got to keep breathing and working. It's the same idea. Like, you've got a dream, you can keep dreaming, but you also have to work. If you want to live the dream, you're going to have to get really fluid and lucid with the dream world to understand how to make your dream come into reality. Yeah? It's not as simple as wake up, have a dream, live the dream. You have to, in the middle, there's the wake up, have a dream. That's one part. It's have a dream, work, live the dream. And that is the reality of the matter. And it's something I feel that is vastly under-marketed to people generally, because the consumerist culture we've developed as a result of the capitalistic prosperity we've enjoyed has encouraged people to consume mindlessly, instead of understanding that their consumption is a part of how they function as a human being. So think of it in the sense of, we absorb light, we absorb the air, food, hydration. It's all these various forms of consumption at a very basic level, but then there's also your visual consumption of media, your audible, your oratory. No, that's speech again. When you listen to things, for example, if you're listening to an audiobook or a podcast or a speech, a talk or something, you start absorbing the information within it because you're listening to it, you're paying attention to it. So it becomes part of your environment. In the same way that you're affecting your environment, it's affecting you. You're consuming it. A computer probably can consume you, but that's a different question. So, given that we are biologically predisposed to embrace consumption as a means of survival through food and fuel, then effectively we must accept. I have an idea in my head. Where's it gone? Talking about difficulty. Yeah, okay. I just see it a lot in younger people. It's not even just in younger people. I just see so many people that aren't willing to put in the effort to accomplish what they say they want to do. It's like people who go to university just for the sake of having a degree. They don't actually know what they want to do with their lives. They don't actually know why they're at university. Some of them don't even know how they got there. Which, I mean, we all face pleasant surprises once in a while. It's. I think the value of education is more important than the university. It's like being a lifelong student, lifelong learner. Dang, I must have checked it. It's okay. We found afterwards. Yeah, you're going to be a lifelong student whether you want to or not, because you're going to be learning things for the rest of your life, whether you want to or not, simply because you are a pattern recognition machine which absorbs data and produces information as a result, and then we will absorb the information and will output knowledge, and then we'll imbibe knowledge and output intelligence, and imbibe intelligence and output wisdom. And it's that chain of command through hierarchies based on higher forms. So if you follow the hierarchy of what the highest forms are, you understand how the difficulty moves. And I know this seems like a meandering point, but trust me, it's all the same body of water. So if people aren't willing to work hard enough, then they should not be allowed to have the results that they want. That is the fundamental principle of meritocracy. And meritocracy is as an objective a system you can really get. And it's my favourite system of governance would be pure meritocracy. The best people get the best things because they can do it the best. I don't see anything wrong with that in any way whatsoever, because that's how it should work, because that's how Darwinism does work. The tricky thing is, the overlapping issue becomes one of social justice. So if social justice becomes the overlapping issue, it's the tricky part is justice is such a subjective term. What I feel is justice is not what you're going to feel is justice. Is not going to be what our neighbours are going to think is justice. It's a matter of finding. That one. And that's the tricky part. Is as soon as you make justice part of how you run your society, you effectively deemed yourself able of perceiving meritocracy to such an extent. Oh, hang on, I've got an error in my screen. So it's still recording. So we're on the full screen again. Confirm go live. Still recording. Pardon for this at home, everybody. I'm going to leave it in because I think it makes it more authentic. And we're back on stream. Okay, so what is it about people that? Okay, there we go. So the organized religion thing is it tells people what they're allowed to know, in the same sense that it's almost as if people get discouraged from attempting to be more than what they are because they're told they're trying too hard to be good at something, like being good at something is bad, but it's not. A lot of the time it's envy from the people saying you don't have to try that hard, because the people who aren't trying that hard don't want to be made to feel bad about their lack of effort. And it's true everywhere, and you've probably seen it 100 times yourself in your own life. For instance, if you do any kind of sport, I'm going to use climbing as an example here, and the people you train with say they don't like a certain move, or they don't like a certain position, or it's climbing, they say they don't like that climb, it's usually because they suck at it. Most people, when they don't like something that requires their skill level to overcome, will say they like it when they can do it, and they'll say they don't like it when they can't do it. Which to me is, it's a level of emotional immaturity that I think is overlooked in society because of how commonly occurring it is. Many, many people within, what would you call it? I don't want to say modern society again. I don't know, civilization, we'll go with that. Many people within civilization have this idea that they can just turn up. Yeah, that's enough. I'm here. I'm well dressed. I'm doing just enough to not get fired, and they skate through life on that. And they don't face any negative consequences. And they think that means that's okay, but it's not. Negative consequences that you aren't immediately perceiving are still happening. There's a difference between covert and overt. It's like the body language thing I was saying earlier. The more intentional you are with your body language, the more obvious it becomes to other. I know I've said this in this podcast. When you're intentional with your body language, you start becoming more aware of what unintentional body language looks like, as well as how to position yourself in a way that you're not necessarily posturing, you're just using gestures and your posture to communicate more effectively. Because, I mean, I know speaking for myself, I did it as a means to basically help my own mental health. My self-esteem was awful, and I know someone struggling all the time, looking down, don't make eye contact, barely. Like if somebody were to shake my hand, I'd go for a firm handshake, and I would just my eye line wouldn't even be near theirs. And now it's at the point where like it's the simple things like confident, eye contact, smile, things you're told when you're like 5 years old. And it's probably if you've ever read How to Influence Friends, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's kind of like the first idea of all of that is you have to genuinely be happy, and it's people. Okay, well there you go. People think being happy is it just happens. It's it's like that quote from Elon about the economy. The economy is not just a magical thing that just does stuff. You have to make things. If you want there to be things there, you have to make things. And if you want to be happy, you have to generate happiness. You can't expect happiness to just come out of nowhere. Why would it do that? That's like expecting money to just fall off the tree for you. It's just not how life works. If you want to be happy, you have to choose you want to be happy and then go make yourself happy. If you want to be happy, you have to make conscious efforts to choose to make yourself happy. I'm repeating that on purpose because it's not automatic. There are people who have lived very privileged lives who don't have to struggle in the same way that some of us do. And I'm not going to fault them for having privileged lives. It's like a kid can't choose their parents, as far as we know, right? And if you ever can, well, then that's a huge philosophical debate right there. For the meantime, as far as we're aware, children can't choose their parents. In the same way, parents can't choose their kids. They just, it's part of the process. You mix it all in, you get an approximation of yourself and your partner, and you do your best to raise them as well as you can. And I think that's all. That's also a connection right there. It's part of it's the parenting thing, and part of me wonders kind of how deeply people actually love their kids. The more I'm not, I guess I'm pro-natal more than anti-natal. I think people should have family and have kids, and I'm more a proponent of a stable family unit than I am of gallivanting off to every sexual fantasy. I mean, for society, that's how I think things should work. And frankly, for myself, it's kind of what I want. To me, that's the highest form of social success, is to have and run a family. It's, that's kind of the whole point of life, is to have a family so the species continues, biologically speaking. And it's really hard to deny that's part of who we are as human beings. It really is, and it's it's trying to encompass what happens between generations, because it's this whole thing where, like, a good teacher wants their student to be better than them. A good teacher wants all their pupils to surpass them skill wise and however else they're being taught. And it's, I feel some parents are comfortable with that because they accept that they're not going to live forever and the kids eventually will take over and stuff, right? It's something I'm very fortunate with my dad. Is, yeah, I sacked that queen on purpose. Suck it. It's something most people I don't think really appreciates. Maybe their parents don't love them that much. Yeah, you say you love your kids, but what are you actually doing about it? It's the whole talk the game versus walk the game, right? Because I can tell you I love you, but if I don't actually do anything to demonstrate that love to you, I'm basically just making empty platitudes because I know you'll respond positively to it, and therefore I can capitalize on your emotions and manipulate you, and then enter marketing goal, right? It's, oh, and people give manipulate such a dirty word, but it's not a dirty word. It's just, if an engineer said manipulate the object within space, he wouldn't do it twice. You're just sad because you could be manipulated, as we all can. We're all human beings. Yeah, I really genuinely think that most parents don't love their kids as much as they claim to, or as much as the kids need to be prosperous. I think that's a genuine issue with society, is the lack of love. Which is, it sounds kind of corny to say, but it's true though. There's way too much lust influencing society. It's become so difficult to communicate with people in a way that doesn't press their go button. Like, it's not that I'm uncomfortable with sex, it's that I think that it's a very natural thing with society and human beings, right? That's, yeah, okay. I get that. What I'm trying to say is that there's an obsession with sex in such a huge part of the population. And to such a point where the whole there was a movement about it recently saying desexualizing your brain is like a cheat code for success. There's no such thing as a cheat code for success. You're either working hard and doing the right things, or you're being a dumbass. At each, extremity, polarity, whatever. And I'm just sick of sugarcoating things for people. There's, oh, so sick of sugarcoating things for people. That was foolish. Hmm. Okay, well, now that's out of the way. Okay. So, yeah, I think love is immeasurable. Yeah. If every emotion can be numerically quantified, so can love, so can trust. Which means if love and trust can be numerically quantified, then there is an objective, mathematically accurate representation of how much I love you. Which means if I love you more than that other person, there's a way to prove it. Oh, there's a great philosophical question: is if we can mathematically read who loves who most, does that mean does that mean as a society we have a moral obligation to, I would say, assign people lovers and arrange marriages? It's kind of the right idea though, right? It's like a matchmaking service. If you were on a dating app and there's a compatibility thing, then yeah, you trust that to do what you want it to do, right? It's kind of the point of the dating app. So societally, if you really can numerically quantify love, then surely that's a net gain for society. Because if you can numerically quantify love, then effectively you know who loves who, how much they love each other, why they love each other, as well as being able to distinguish between real love, fake love, and all the iterations in between. So, with that in mind, the tricky part then becomes if you. I'm thinking if there's an AI in charge of society, because if there is, then to optimize societal utility economically and socially, you'd want to get the most happy couples together as possible, which then might arguably means separating existing happy couples in favour of the greater good. Which then means every relationship you ever face is, every single relationship you ever go through is, well, it's temporary in the sense that nobody lives forever. It's temporary in the sense that it's just your turn. Because either you'll be with them till you die, or you'll find somebody else. And that principle is, it's kind of true of a lot of things. Tying into the how much we love each other stuff, it's like, do you really love that person so much that you'll be with them until the day you die, or they die, barring you killing each other first? It's difficult, man. Marriage is no walk in the park. And I think many, many people underestimate. I'm sorry, I know I'm looking at you. It's not a camera there, it's a. Pardon me, it's a hypnoswirl. If there is a camera there, then it's within the television screen. That's a. Pardon me, different level altogether. Okay, so we've got about 50 minutes today. I'm trying to do these at roughly an hour each. Alright, there's my intentional queen sacrifice in the middle there. Let's see, brilliantly pull it back. Yeah. Okay. It's nice to sort of vent my head a bit and find some ideas. Yes, I should have done that there. That would have been absolutely better idea. Okay, so boom, 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 boom. I think I was just too concentrated on what I was saying instead of listening to what y'all were doing. So I hope you all enjoyed this today. If you guys ever have any questions or requests, anything like that, please feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to adapt the content of each episode to your requests, because honestly, I'm trying to. It's what was consumer behaviour, isn't it? Trying to figure out what you guys like, and I know at a fundamental level that if I was, doing this naked and had some show in the background, maybe there's some fireworks going in the chest, so I'd get more viewers. You're gonna have to pay me a lot for me to take even a jumper off, right? So until that happens, just talk to me. I like having conversations. I like exploring ideas. I think conversation is a dying art that really needs reviving. I think far too many people communicate via text messages instead of like voice message, or when I say voice message, I mean vocally, face to face. And the written form of communication is one of my favourite forms, because it allows you so much opportunity to edit in the nuance and subtlety you want to really communicate what you want to say. And yet, despite all that meticulousness, a written message will never have the inflections that a spoken voice will have, simply by the nature of the form. Yeah. I know I'm sounding like a bit of an old fogey, but I really notice it more in younger generations than older generations. There's an inability to just have a conversation. It's something I've experienced in a few different ways, and part of me is wondering it might be an intelligence thing. And I'm gonna, it's. I know I'm not medically, mentally challenged. Maybe I'm a genius, but it's been said, and I've done IQ tests and all the, all the things that go along with that. It's difficult when you understand stuff that other people don't. And I think instead of just assuming I'm this, world class genius that nobody can relate to, I'm going to try and, use whatever intelligence I do have to communicate to people. It's if you're a specialist in your field trying to explain that to somebody who's never isn't even aware of that field, it's a challenge. Because even with the best of intention of optimizing communication between sender and recipient, it's very, very difficult to quantify how much comprehension is going on. So that's where the numeracy comes in. So stuff like neuromarketing and the neuroeconomics are really, really helpful for that. Because it's basically it's the host reading minds is an old saying. But basically, those two. Hold up. That was a mistake. You? No. Okay. What have we done instead, huh? What have we done instead? You've gone with P6, maybe. Yeah, people don't love each other as much as they say they do. And that's one of the saddest truths I've learned about the world is whatever ladder you're climbing, whether it's academics, athletics, any sort of dominant art, money, whatever, like the disparity between haves and have-nots elucidates itself. It becomes more and more obvious. Transparency becomes clear. And it makes you feel like you're smarter than you are. No matter how high up you are, dominant hierarchy, when you're a specialist in whatever it is, or even if you're just generally better at somebody, it's like the risk to ego is huge. Because it can give you the sense that you're entirely competent and capable, but really you're just taking advantage of good odds. That's the economic side of marketing. It's applied psychology. It's pardon me. Okay, we're gonna finish reviewing this game, and then once we've done that, I'm gonna sign off the evening. I'll be quite honest with you viewers. I'm more tired than I expected to be today, and I'm really trying to persevere and push through and think of more stuff to talk about. Currently, the ideas are a little slower than usual, and that's fine for now. We'll speak them up later. I hope you have enjoyed it. I really do. I know I make this for myself, and I know that several of you probably think that what I'm showing isn't, the best use of my time. That's your opinion. Oh, hang on, I'm thinking, even with that narrative there, I'm not getting in my own way. I'm not trying to get in my own way, I'm just trying to be modest about everything. And sometimes you don't have to be modest, sometimes you just be yourself, not be a dick. And if they think you're being arrogant or flexing or whatever, or showing off, but maybe you're not, and they're just insecure. Oh, it bothers me so much when people's insecurity causes them to mistake aptitude for arrogance. Sometimes people are just better than you. It's like, instead of making excuses that, the weather was like this, or I didn't sleep well, it's like, no, maybe that you just didn't win because they were better than you. And that's okay. can hurt, but you need to accept it for what it is. Especially if you have any sort of emotional dysregulation. Okay, thank you everybody for watching and listening. I'm aiming to do one of these every week. I know the last month or so circumstances. In the meantime, I love you and leave you. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, everything else you want to do, and I'll see you very soon. Thanks. Bye.